Constant Thoughts, Chapter 16. It's been oddly peaceful since Zack had left. No trolling, no pranks, and definitely no screaming, which I was rather happy about. I was in my room scrolling through Twitter and Snapchat when I heard footsteps. You up for a surprise?" Dave asks, opening my door, taking me by shock. "Something called knocking, but yeah, sure, I'm up for a surprise," I laughed. Dave grabbed my arm and yanked me out of my room. I was told to wait in the living room until he was ready. Within 2 minutes, Dave dashed out of the bathroom. He grabbed my arm, yes, again, and dragged me out the door. "You really like dragging people everywhere, don't you?" I said mischievously. "Nope, just habits," he responded. Eventually, I was dragged into an Uber. Dave and I were holding hands throughout the whole way to wherever we were going. I looked out the dim window to see a field full of apple trees everywhere. "Liking the scenery?" he asked. "Dang, it looks beautiful. Hell yeah," I exclaimed. What are we doing here?" I questioned. "Just close your eyes," he whispered. I went ahead and did as he said. Then Dave slowly guided me to his surprise. "You can open your eyes now," he said. I opened my eyes and looked around my surroundings. In front of me, there was a plain red and white picnic blanket. On top was a brown wooden basket and gray cushions. "Is this a picnic?" I glanced at Dave. "Well, what do you see?" he laughs. "Of course it's a frickin' picnic." "I know," I nodded. Think, I joked. Dave opens the basket and inside consisted of drinks, sweet British biscuits, cake, yogurt, and your favorite food. I'd always loved your favorite food. They'd always taste good. Duh. I gulped down some favorite food and washed it down with water. "Explain something. What is this for?" I asked. "Check your subscriber count," he simply said. Therefore, I checked YouTube. 25,643 subscribers. I was in so much awe that words could not explain. Checking my notifications, I found that the majority of them were about me hitting 250k, and some were random questions. "Why didn't you tell me?" I questioned, with a massive grin on my face. "Surprise," Dave chirped. I ate more of my favorite food, then I watched Dave eat some biscuits, grinning from ear to ear. "You should do a Q&A for 250k subscribers," Dave suggested. "That's actually pretty smart," I said, taking the suggestion into consideration. I quickly tweeted, "Doing Q&A for 250k sub special. Leave your questions below, please." Soon we had eaten all the food that Dave had packed. We called an Uber and went home, immediately paying her once she drove us. "I'm gonna head up to record my Q&A, I told Dave. "Aight, I'll be in my room if you need anything then," he responded. I scrambled to my room and set up my computer for recording. "Hey guys," I said, "I recently hit 250k, 250,000, so I'll be doing a Q&A. I took a deep breath and continued. "First question, did you think you would get this far on YouTube? Second question, do you get recognized in public a lot? Personally, I don't get recognized in public. Occasionally, I do have people come up and ask for a picture, but that mostly happens when I'm with Techno, but then they also assume that I'm you because I'm with him. Third question, are you really dating Technoblade? That should be kinda obvious. I then later just found out that the majority of the questions were about me and Techno. Have you ever went on a date with Techno? Yeah, duh, that's what couples do. Went through plenty of questions containing my YouTube and my love life. With at least 100 questions answered, I decided to conclude my recording. Thank you, kids, for all your questions. Be sure to stream any remaining questions that haven't been answered. See ya." It was currently 4:39 p.m., so I had a shower and went towards the kitchen. Dave was already there, chopping carrots up. "Making soup?" I questioned. "Yep, chicken soup," he replied. "I just started," he added. "All right, lit," I said, as I sat down in one of the chairs. I began scrolling through Twitter and Instagram. I saw a tweet from Zack, Bad Boy Halo, A6D, and Spivey that they were leaving MCM. I got kicked out of it as well for not having enough views. I was shocked by this and did a little research. So Kim kicked every Minecraft YouTuber out of MCM and left the people who didn't know how to play. Gee, Wonder who's gonna win now. There's practically no competition. Selk tweeted, containing nothing but the truth. I liked all the tweets and kept scrolling before I had done, Dave exclaimed as he put some soup in a bowl with the ladle. Thanks, I said as I tasted the soup. Tastes like any normal soup, but it was good. Every meal Dave makes is almost as godly as his PvP. I finished up my soup and brushed my teeth. I walked downstairs where Dave was cleaning up. I sat back in the chair and sighed. Hey, Dave, I got kicked out of Minecraft Mondays, I told him. Huh? But that's impossible. Starts in an hour, he asked with a shocked tone, turning around. I didn't have enough views. A60 didn't either, I replied. Plus, Skippy, Bad Boy Halo, and Spifey dropped out. Well, who's gonna play the game? It's just gonna be some randoms, Dave explained. No clue, but it's gonna be hella boring, I replied. I looked at my sub count one last time before proceeding to go to my room. I shut the door and laid across the bed, looking at the ceiling. I felt anger, but at the same time, I was devastated. Hey, you alright? Dave questioned, opening my door. I'm fine, Dave, I yelled at him, but I instantly regretted my decision. He stood in the doorframe for a good second before shutting my door. I had never tried to hurt Dave, but my anger took over. You don't deserve this. You worked too hard for this. I decided it was the best if I played some Bed Wars. No, not that Bed Wars Lamau. I went over to turn on my desktop when I heard a loud ding come from my phone. I checked who was texting me. I couldn't believe who it was. 2:39 p.m. Best friend. Hey, you, what you up to? Why are you now texting me, you say? Best friend says, I was just thinking about you moving back in. At this point, I wanted to scream. I had too much on my mind. I yeeted my phone across the room and proceeded to go retrieve it. I didn't reply to their text and left it on red. I went to go find Dave, but he was out of sight. I looked in his room, but found no sign of him. Please, God, don't turn this into my nightmare. I eventually found Dave on the front porch. He was hugging a visibly younger girl. He walked into the room and looked up to see me standing there. We have a guest, huh? I asked him. Meet my sister, Alexandria, Dave introduced, letting go of his sister. She's here for the afternoon to visit. Very nice to meet you, she said with joy. You could obviously tell that she was a very bubbly person. Nice to meet you as well, I said, bringing her in for a hug. I'm Dave's girlfriend, I told her. I know, I've heard a lot of things about you, she told me with a smile. I gave Dave a slight glance, but returned my eyes back to Alexandria. Huh, remember that video I posted where I said my little sister's coming over? Well, this is that little sister, Dave joked, resting his arm on his sister's head. What video? She asked, looking up at him with a confused look. Nothing, Alex, Dave replied. She simply rolled her eyes and proceeded to walk inside. And why didn't you tell me your sister was coming? I asked him. Because you don't have to know everything, Dave said with a smirk, walking up the stairs after his sister. I laughed and walked up the stairs to see what they were up to. Oh my God, your room is so cool, Alex said, looking at his gold play button. It's very well decorated, Dave said, giving a glance at me. She is just curious about your room, I whispered to him, giggling. Oh my God, you have almost all the play buttons, she said, picking up one. Alexandria, curiosity killed the cat, Dave said, grabbing his play button out of her hands. I'm sorry, big brother, I didn't mean it, she said with a mocking tone. Dave placed his play button on the shelf and gave her a stern look. He had a staring contest before Alexandria walked out of his room, annoyed. Dave, you meanie, I joked. Nah, just big brother duties, he said, chuckling. Dave went to go find where his sister had fled, to keep her out of trouble. Alex, Dave yelled, searching for her. I suddenly got a notification from my phone that A60 posted a new video. Well, I guess I'll watch. I finished the video, agreeing to everything that was said. I left a comment before looking for Dave and Alex. When I found them, they were at the dinner table eating ice cream. Oh, so you guys are just going to leave me out on the fun, huh? I asked jokingly. I had to give her something so she would stop destroying the apartment, Dave joked. I then grabbed a bowl and scoop, I screamed, and sat down at the table with them. So, Alex, how has school been going for you? Dave asked. It's not really that hard, she said, whirling her spoon around in her bowl. You know, if you ever need help with your English homework, I know, you're the English major, she quoted sarcastically. I laughed as I took their empty bowls and washed them in the sink. Oh, Alex, when did Mom say she was coming to pick you up? Dave asked. She said something like around 6. So you don't know for sure? Dave questioned, raising an eyebrow. Alexandria. Fine, she said 4, she blurted out. Dave shook his head at her before turning on the TV. There you go, Dave said as he handed her the remote. Dave and I looked at each other and sighed. She is a handful, Dave said, laughing. Soon it was 4 p.m., and Dave's mother came to pick her up. She was a short, brown-haired woman who resembled Dave a lot. She left intimately after grabbing Alexandria by the arm. Geez, your family really has a thing for arm grabbing, I joke. Huh, yeah, Dave says. Heading to the kitchen, I grab my phone and find that my lock screen had been replaced with a familiar Minecraft pig. I look at Dave like I'm not having it, but we just ended up laughing in the end. Just suddenly, I hear a knock at the door. Dave didn't order food. I wasn't expecting anyone. Ooh, who could it be? Chapter 17. The doorbell rang. Anxiety started building up as I went closer to open the door. The knob circled while the door creaked open. Nobody was there. Someone must have played ding-dong ditch because they left in a flash. I heard yet another ring and got up carelessly and opened the door. A pair of arms embraced me as I looked around. It was from Dave. You're pretty blind, he laughs. I stood there that whole time, he chirps. Giving him some of that sweet karma, I pull his arm inside and drag him to the couch. Scrolling through stuff on TV, we came across a podcast we'd never heard of, but it was about school supplies, so you can see why we just skipped it. Dave, why don't we go outside somewhere? I asked brightly. Sure, you got any ideas? Dave replies. The park, I suggest. Sure, he said. Grabbing our essentials, we head out, and Dave closes the door. There's a pretty nice park on the next block, Dave started. Right, we can walk there. It's a nice exercise, I say, sarcastically. We walked down a street full of bright-colored houses, turned left, and the park that Dave was talking about was in sight. Swings seem like a great place to sit, I pointed out. Fair point, Dave replies, agreeing. We sat down on the swings, talking about our plans for videos and our recent videos. We shouldn't be here. Snapping out of my thoughts, I saw Dave scrolling through Twitter, replying to DMs and comments. A little girl came up to me and Dave and started to give us a bit of an attitude. Hey, the swings are for little people only, the young girl said with sass. I mean, she is, right, Dave? I said sarcastically, turning to him. Fair enough, but I don't give up my swing to disrespectful casuals, Dave said, turning back to the little girl with his arms crossed. Not too long after, the little girl's mom came over to us. I'm so sorry about her. She is a handful. I know. I just had my sister over a few days ago, Dave said, getting off of his swing. I'm sorry, sir, the girl said. Dave picked the girl up and sat her on the swing. There you go, he said, smiling. Dave and I decided to start walking home after staying for a few hours. She was so sweet, Dave stated. I have to admit she was adorable, I said, agreeing with him, giggling. After a few minutes of walking, I started to get hungry. Want to go eat? I asked, breaking our peaceful silence. I'm starving. Let's go, Dave said jokingly. He called an Uber, and it came surprisingly quick. Dark clouds began rolling in, so we hopped in and got escorted to the restaurant of our choosing. What do you want to eat? I asked. Anything, really? Dave said, rushing over to get a tray. I rolled my eyes and followed after him. We got our food and sat down, then ate in silence. You shouldn't be with him. At this point, those echoey loud voices were taking over. I didn't know what it was or what it wanted, but they're just so damn annoying. They felt like flashbacks playing inside of my head Whenever I heard them, I'd feel dizzy, and my eyes would blur out. Besides, the voices weren't anywhere near my concern. It was just the dizziness here and there. It didn't matter, right? I feel fingertips poke my face, Dave poking me from his impatience. Did you like my story? He asked. Sorry, I dozed off. Can you repeat it? I reply. It's almost as bad as my mic muting, he snickered. We quickly gobbled our food and paid. After the meal, we just sat there, mostly silent, but with occasional small talk. Dave, I think it's gonna rain soon, so we better get going, I said, laced concern in my voice. Yeah, guess we should, Dave replied. Dave and I walked outside and called an Uber. We stood there in total silence. Anxiety hit me, since the silence was unbearable. I wanted to break the silence, but I didn't know how until Dave decided to. You okay? You're acting a bit off today, he asked. Yeah, I'm just feeling a bit dizzy, I responded with a hitch at the end, but ended up chuckling. While just standing there, I rested my head on Dave. He jolted at the sudden movement, but eventually got comfortable. A few minutes go by, and I feel platters of rain falling on me. Oh no, I murmured to myself. I kept a close eye on the road to find the Uber when it arrives. I felt the rain feel heavier as it fell on my head. By the time the Uber had pulled up, it was practically raining. I groaned as soon as it arrived. I was smart enough to bring my jacket, but Dave was soaking wet. Once we were inside, I laughed at him as he was completely soaked. You better pray you don't get sick, I joked. As soon as we arrived at the apartment, Dave and I ran through the rain at light speed, opened the door, and went inside. Dave immediately took off his shirt. Very sexy, I said, turning around and laughing. You're cute when you're wet, he replied. Oh, you heck. I proceeded to kiss him and pushed him on the couch. I started grinding, going fast at one point, then going slower the next. And a few groans from him, so I ran my hand through his hair. I felt something slide up my shirt. Dave unhooked my bra and proceeded to take it off. He doesn't love you. I stopped in my tracks when I heard those 4 words. You all right, nerd? Dave asked. I felt like I had to puke. He knew I was gagging, so Dave ran upstairs like Sonic to grab a trash can, came back, then tried to comfort me. I puked a bit before reassuring him that I was okay. Yeah, you're definitely not okay, Dave said, extremely concerned. He gave me a glass of water and told me to go lie down, so I went to do so, but the thoughts swirled in my head. Dave walked into my room to make sure I was all right, quietly sat next to me, rubbed my back and kissed my cheek, waking me up. Bitch, I just fell asleep, I said, exhausted. Too bad. You're not feeling well. I would have said something, Dave said, chuckling. I sat next to him and blushed. I laid my head on his shoulders, falling back asleep. He doesn't love you. I opened my eyes and looked down to see myself stuck in a chair, tied up. I tried to break free, but had no luck. I looked up to see a complete mirror image of me, except she had one difference, her attitude. Who are you? I said, confused. Duh, I'm you, she said with sarcasm. Nah, I am, I said proudly. Yeah, sure, I don't care, she said, coming down to my level. You're a horrible person. The words hit my head like an anvil. I finally knew who was behind this. I felt even sicker. I should have known it was you screwing with me, I replied. Yeah, 'cause you're rotted. You never think before you assume, she said, laughing. She was right. But, well, of course, she was me, though this ain't over, libtard, she said, looking over my shoulder. You got more than a perfect life with Dave ahead of you. Oh, and by the way, send this message to Dave, she stated, grinning. He's next. I woke up, breathing heavily, and Dave woke up to my sudden movement. I was still in shock. You okay? He asked in worry. I felt an urge, and I knew exactly what it was. I needed to throw up. Can I have the trash can? I asked. Dave quickly collected the trash can and handed it to me. He rubbed my back, reassuring that I was going to be okay. He doesn't love you. You shouldn't be with him. I'm the real you. He doesn't care. I held my stomach, feeling terribly sick. All those thoughts in my head were getting old. It was like an itch you could never scratch. A game that you could never win. What if what she said is true? All these thoughts didn't help me make me feel any better. I puked and soon I started turning pale. Maybe it's food poisoning, Dave said with concern as he put his hand on my forehead. Yeah, maybe, I replied. I knew I was lying to myself. I knew exactly what it was, but didn't say. You won't ever think, will you? Dave left the room to go get something. I heard the voice again. You won't be satisfied until you see it happen. I shut my eyes tight as I held my stomach. Dave came back with a water bottle and ibuprofen. I quickly took the medicine before lying back down. Libtard, medicine can't overcome the truth. Well, that's the thing. My writing is bomb. Yeah, okay, Alpha. I wanted to cry, but then I realized I haven't posted in a while. Dave, I need to post something, I said, holding my stomach. No, stay right there, he said, pulling the covers back over me. He kissed my forehead before walking towards the door. You sure you're okay? He said, freezing where he was. I'm fine, Dave. I'm fine. Chapter 8. I woke up to another day of my alarm going off. I quickly hit it, sighing at the time, and walked out of my room to see Dave cooking pancakes. Good morning, nerd. I was about to wake you up, Dave snickered, flipping the pancake and landing it on the plate. I ironically clapped and rolled my eyes, taking some pancakes, sitting down. Dave watched me closely as I ate. They good? Dave asked. They're great for boxed pancake mix, I teased. He crossed his arms and just started laughing. I smiled wearily. I really need to get a video out soon. Will you help me? I gave him a look that he could only translate into me being desperate for content. He finally agreed, and we raced to our computers, got on the Discord call, and smashed the fucking play button on the Minecraft launcher. We played for a few hours until my storage ate my recording and got overstuffed. Right, I'ma head out, I said, starting my outro. After that, I heard a knock at my door. Come in. He flopped into my bed, and as I spun my chair to face him, What's up? I asked, wheeling my chair closer to the bed. You know, we have a theme park around here, Dave suggested. I sighed. Grab your stuff. Dave jumped up from the bed, speeding out of the room. I gathered my things and slid out the door. Getting into the car, I see Dave's hyped face as we drove to the park. We got there and went on multiple rides, and Dave won me a stuffed penguin. You know, if I wasn't so good at games, you wouldn't have that, Dave teased. I rolled my eyes. You keep turning your ego up, I'm going to vomit on you, I joked, not knowing it was really true. We laughed, going on to another ride. As soon as we got off, I ran to the trash can and immediately puked. I felt Dave pull my hair back and looked up to him. You've been acting weird lately. Are you okay? Dave asked, a little concerned. I sighed. I've had a lot of things on my mind. I trailed off as we got into the car. I went to the bed, hugging the penguin that Dave got me, thinking about what he said. I woke up again to Dave looking over me. A little spooked, I popped up. This is an intervention. Welcome, Dave said, motioning his hands. I gave him the what the fuck look. Put my head on my pillow. What do you mean? I asked. He sighed. I know you've been depressed. I giggled a bit. I haven't been thinking straight, but I'm not depressed, I answered, getting up to kiss him. He blushed a bit. You know I love you, right? He asked. I giggled. Of course. I leaned in to kiss him again, our lips never breaking. I stumbled back onto the bed, looking at Dave. He laughed, laying down next to me. You know, you can tell me what's wrong. He trailed off. I looked at him. Don't worry. It's just about my sleep schedule, I replied, grabbing him off the bed and leading him to the car. I got the keys and started driving without Dave knowing where we were going. Parked the car at the beach. Oh, you beach, Dave laughed. I rolled my eyes. You needed to see this, I giggled at my own pun. He pulled me to the beach as we sat on the sand talking about our hopes and dreams. Night went on and we drove home after grabbing some ice cream. When we got home, I plopped onto the couch, and Dave following me as I turned on the TV. Dave stole the remote. Hey, I screamed as he rolled through the stations. I watched as he selected a movie, seeing the genre horror. I snuggled into the blanket. A horror film, I asked. He laughed. Are you scared? He taunted. I crossed my arms. No way. I was scared. The movie was scary. When the movie ended, I was curled up next to Dave with his arm around me. I fell asleep like this, and woke up, then made cereal. It's been great with Dave, really. I kept thinking something was wrong, but he just made me so happy. I giggled to myself, thinking about our beach trip. He woke up to my giggling. Good morning, nerd, I mocked. He laughed and got up to grab some food. I ruffled his hair quietly, walking to the couch. I opened my phone to see a text message from Zach. Zach says, Hey, are you good? You say, yeah. Good. Wanted to make sure you weren't messed up or anything. Zach said. I laughed at Zach's typing, which earned the interest of Dave. It's Zach, I responded, which made him sad. I love you, not Zach. Don't be so overprotective. I crossed my arms. I have to be overprotective because you're too beautiful to be left unsupervised. Dave shot back, blushing. I turned a little pink, winking at him, and settled back on the couch. I edited for most of the day until Dave came and picked me up. I don't want to go, I complained as I got in the car. Where are we going? I asked. He laughed. We are going to this local high school, I know, and it's senior prank day, so we're going to help, Dave laughed. I gasped. We can't do that. Come on, be a little rebellious, he nudged me, pulling into the parking lot. I saw a group of teenagers heading into the school, and he pulled me in. I sighed. Dave, a girl ran up to him. They hugged. This is my sister. Tiffany, meet you, and you, meet Tiffany. He introduced us, and she handed us balloons and thumbtacks. We ran down the halls until we found one classroom. We did what we were told and glued a thumbtack to the chair while filling the room with balloons. We made our way down the hall until we reached the principal's office. We went inside and did the same thing until we got to one empty room with a desk and a filling cabinet. Look, you, he motioned to the plaques, showing the teachers. I sat on the desk, watching as he read them aloud. I giggled with each mispronunciation. He joined me on the desk, slowly putting his hand on my thigh. I turned red. You know those cliché movies where the students have sex in the principal's office? He asked. Laughing, I joined in. He turned red. Want to make a cliché? I asked, feeling his hands move a bit. Our lips meet, fighting furiously. I laid on the desk as he got on top until we heard a shriveled scream. I looked at the door to see Tiffany standing there, watching us. Dave quickly got up and I followed. We both turned red. This is senior prank day, not have sex in my principal's office. Tiffany rolled her eyes. And you should know better, Dave. Also, hella gross. Tiffany insulted and left. I sighed, and we finished filling the room and moved on. When we got to the cafeteria, there were posters all over and card houses on each table. Dave and I laughed at the work they had done and left the school. The teenagers looked at us. Hey, want to come back to my house? One boy suggested. We shrugged, all going to the boys' house. We played music and played games. When everyone was asleep, we headed to our own ways. I flopped onto my bed until I heard a sudden knock at my door. I opened it, and Dave strutted into my room, locking the door behind him. Hey, he chirped, sitting on my bed. What you need? I asked, sitting next to him. He eyed me a bit, placing his hand on my cheek. I was confused until he pinned me against the bed. Oh, hi there, Dave, I said, biting my lip in a seductive tone. In that moment, I felt a sharp pain, a sudden urge. I tried opening my eyes. It was so quiet. You wake up, but you're in an unfamiliar environment. You're in a hospital room, even though you had just woken up and trying to desperately process what's going on. And from further inspection, or well, simply taking off the covers and running to the closest mirror, you find a bandage on your head. Was I in a coma this entire time? I was only dreaming. Damn, then who the hell is this Technoblade dude? You suddenly say, questioning your mind. In about a second, a nurse waltzes in. Good evening, miss. I I'm very sure you figured out, but you've been in a coma for 5 years, and there's some visitors here for you too. All right, let them in. The visitors walk in. You look at them from your bed. When they took 2 steps, they all ran and hugged you. Everything was coming at you all at once, so you gave yourself time to comprehend. Your best friend was there, your parental guardians were there, and the nurse was just gone. Okay. Oh my lord, you! I almost thought we would have lost you for good, Parrot One exclaimed. I thought I wasn't going to see you again, best friend mumbled in the hug. You, please remember to leave some situations to the adults, Parrot Two had also exclaimed. Wait, hold up. Wait, what even happened? All of them looked at each other. So what happened was, you were only 11, and an online groomer forced you for your address and will. You can tell what happens next, best friend began. You were going to be trafficked. I couldn't believe that you fell for this evil, Parent 2 growled, but then calmed their temper after realizing they were being too harsh. It was all starting to make sense. This Technoblade guy could have been what they were actually talking about. Seemingly creepy questions and events that didn't make sense were all tied together by this one person. I don't like where this left off. The end. ASMR reading by Dr. Dumboy. Oh hey, that's me. Author's note. Thank you for reading Constant Thoughts. As a sadist, you are not getting a better ending. As a reasonable person, I will tell you why I chose that ending. There was a Discord server that me, my husband, and other writers were in, organizing and writing chapters. I was one of the only 2 editors that was really active, and the chapters were getting long due to higher demand. But the problem kept reoccurring since we had so many writers and so many writing styles that we lost the basic idea for the last couple chapters. I got really fed up with it and decided to delete the server. Yes, I did try and remind them to communicate, but that obviously didn't go well. As I had no contact with most of the writers, I decided to finish off the book with the last chapter entirely by myself. The connections I made were simple. There were parts where you was having weird mental problems and some events did not make sense. Example, what's your cup size? While after that, I'm only 17. The story got kinda shit and started fading anyway, so no other reasonable ending other than a coma. Thank you, and a good night.